So today we are going to talk about tokens. What are tokens? Tokens are the basic units of your Python program. So when the Python program gets compiled, the compiler breaks down your code into four types of token. Okay, so your tokens are mainly four types. They are keywords, identifiers, literals, operators. These are the four main types of tokens. So first we will talk about identifiers. What are identifiers? Identifier is a name given to different entities in your program. Okay, it's a name given to different entities in your program. So those identifiers can be variables, functions, modules, etc. These identifiers are named by the programmer, so they are user defined. So identifiers can contain digits from 0 to 9. It can contain lowercase letters. It can contain uppercase letters. So what are identifiers? They are the name given to a different entities in your program. So for those entities you can have digits, lowercase letters, uppercase letters, underscore. Okay, special characters are not allowed while naming a identifier. You cannot have a special character, and identifier cannot start with a digit. So it can contain 0 to 9 digits, lowercase letters, uppercase letters, underscore, but it cannot contain special characters and it cannot start with a digit. Now variables. So variables are one kind of identifiers. Consider this assignment. So here 260 will be an object that is stored in the main memory. Okay, and A is a reference variable pointing to that object. A is called the reference variable. Now A is a variable, 260 is the object stored in the main memory. Address of an object. So this object will be having an unique address in the memory. You can get the address of that object using ID of A. Okay, if you type ID of A, then you will be getting the address of that object in the main memory, and that will be unique to that particular object. Each object at a particular address in the memory is given a reference count. That means every object will be having a reference count. I mean to say, here this object is pointed by one reference variable. That means this object's reference count will be 1. Okay, you can get the reference count of an object using this particular statement. You need to import a module called ctypes, and from that you can again have this clong, and from there you can call the method from address. Okay, when you say ID of A, you will be getting the address of this particular object. Okay, then you can pass that address to this function to get the reference count of that particular object in the memory. So what is the reference count of this particular object? It will be 1 because this object is pointed by one reference variable. Now consider this assignment. A equal to 260 and I say B equal to A. That means A and B are the reference variables which are pointing to the same object in the main memory. So what will be the reference count in this case? For the object 260, it will be 2. 2 will be the reference count for the object 260. Now let us consider this assignment. Earlier I said A equal to 260 and B equal to A. So in that case, both reference variables are pointing to the same object. But here I say A equal to 260 and A equal to 261. That means first I pointed to the object, A started pointing to the object 260 and then it switched to 261. It started pointing to 261. That is how it can be visualized in the memory. First 260 and A started pointing to 261. So what will be the reference count of object 260 here? Not 261. What is the reference count of object 260 in this case? It will be 0 because no reference variable is pointing to this object in the memory. Okay. Yes, the reference count of object 260 is 0. So whenever the reference count of a particular object is 0, then that object is eligible for garbage collection. Okay. So any variable with reference count 0 is eligible for garbage collection. So here 260 is there and since its reference count is 0, it is removed by the garbage collector and only 261 will be available in the memory but not 260. Now naming conventions for variables in Python. So before understanding some naming conventions, we need to see what is PEP8. PEP8 is Python Enhancement Proposal. The full form of PEP is Python Enhancement Proposal. What it contains? PEP8 contains instructions to write your Python code in a proper manner to improve the readability of the code. So what is a PEP8? It is a style guide containing the instructions to write your Python code in a proper manner to improve readability of the code. Consider a variable first name. Okay, this is a variable. So what is a variable? Variable is a one kind of identifier. That means we can actually name them, named by the programmer. So let us consider this variable first name. So as per PEP8, it is better to name that variable as first underscore name because readability counts in Python. So instead of mentioning like first name, you can have it as first underscore name. Let us say your variable has only one word, okay, then you can just name it in the small case. This capital NAME is there, right? Instead of naming this way, you can name it in small case. Okay, so in general, if you have a variable with one word, you can just mention that variable in lower case letters. Okay, and if your variable contains two words, then that variable can be named as first word underscore second word. Okay, so this first name can be named as first underscore name. So that is what as per PEP8. Now, does your code run if you violate PEP8? I mean to ask, is your Python compiler or interpreter going to throw errors if you violate PEP8? No, we are not going to get any errors even if you violate PEP8. But it is important to write user readable code. Readability counts in Python. So that is the reason we need to follow PEP8 standards. That means for answering this question, does your code run if you violate PEP8? Yes, your code will run. However, as per principles of Python, that is, there is one more guide called PEP20, that is called Gen of Python. Okay, in that there is one principle called readability counts. Okay, so it is better if you write your code in PEP8 standard, because as per Gen of Python, readability counts. That is one of the principles of Gen of Python, which is PEP20. Now, are Python variables case sensitive? Yes, Python variables are case sensitive. That means first underscore name and capital F first underscore name are two different variables in Python. Okay, then we have seen how to name variables. Okay, variables are nothing but one type of identifiers, and we will see constants as well. Constants are also one kind of identifiers. It is a good practice to name the constants in all caps. Okay, just like how we have defined variables in small case for a single word, and combining with an underscore for a double word. In the same way, for naming the constants, it is better to have all caps. Okay, so one example is const underscore limit equal to 100. So this is one good example of defining a constant. Now tell me what happens if I define my constant as below. Const limit equal to 100. Const, I have written everything in small letters. Okay, no, you won't get any error. Even if you say you name it in the small letters as well, you are not going to get any error. Yes, you won't get any error, because it is just a instruction provided by the PEP8 for better readable code only. Your compiler will not be throwing any error, but it is a good practice if you name your constants with all caps. So, are you going to get an error for the below code? I just named a constant, okay, const underscore limit, and I changed the value of the constant. Okay, so what is a constant? Constant is supposed to have a constant value. Okay, but I changed the value here. It is still okay. It is still okay. You can rename. You can give a different value to a constant variable, because there is nothing as such a constant in Python. It is just a variable. So you can reassign a constant variable. We are not going to get any error, because it is nothing but a variable. Okay, yes, we are not going to get any error even if you reassign a constant variable, because in Python it is just a naming convention to define constant in that way. Okay, so that is all about constants. It's a good practice to have your constant defined this way as per PEP8. Now we will talk about keywords. Till now we talked about two kinds of tokens, that is identifiers. Yeah, again, as part of identifiers we talked about variables, and now this is the second kind of token, that is keywords. So what are keywords? Keywords are predefined, okay. They are not named by the programmer, they are predefined, and they are reserved. Keywords are reserved. That means you cannot be using those keywords. I mean, you cannot be naming those keywords again. You can use them, but you cannot name those keywords as identifiers. You cannot use your keywords as identifiers. Okay? Yes, keywords cannot be used as identifiers. These are the list of keywords that we have in our Python. I mean, for now we are not going to discuss about these things, but it is a good to know stuff. These cannot be used as identifiers in our Python program because these are reserved. So, if you use keyword as an identifier, what kind of error you are going to get? I mean to ask, are you going to get a compile time error or you are going to get a runtime error? Compile time or runtime? What kind of error you are going to get if you use keyword as an identifier? It will be a compile time error because during this token generation itself, compiler will be checking if that particular token or that particular named identifier is a reserved word or not. If that is a reserved word, then compiler itself will be throwing the error. Okay. Now we will be talking about literals. So what is a literal? Literal is a data that is assigned to a variable or a constant. Okay. Why it is called literal is like you can actually recognize it just by seeing it. That is why it is called a literal. Okay. It is a data that is assigned to a variable or a constant. Example, a equal to 10. Here 10 is the literal, a is the variable, a is the variable and 10 is the literal. Okay, a is the variable and 10 is the literal here. So your literals can be string literals, int literals, okay, boolean literals, float literals. Your literals can be string literals, int literals, boolean literals and float literals, and also list literals. So what is an example of string literal? Okay, a equal to dev seed. Okay, so this is an example of this dev seed is an example of string literal because it is enclosed in double quotes. So another example of string literal is this one. That means you can enclose your string literal in single quotes as well. This is also a valid example. And your string can contain one character as well, like this. Even this is considered as a string. Okay, even one character enclosed in double quotes, even this is also a string literal. So these are some of the valid examples of a string literal. Now we will talk about integer literal. Earlier we have seen the examples for string literal. Now we will see the examples for integer literal. A equal to 10. This is an example for integer literal. Okay, now example for a float literal. A equal to 10.1. Okay, 10.1. So this is a float literal. So you will be having a value after this decimal. So that is all about float. Now we will see some operators in Python. So what are operators? Operators are the fourth main type of tokens in the program. So we have seen variables, that is identifiers we have seen literals, okay, and we have seen one more thing called keywords, and this is the fourth one, operators. Operators is the fourth main type of tokens in the Python program, okay. So we know that program contains a set of instructions, okay, and most of these instructions are operations, okay. Most of the instructions in a program are operations. So an operation is an expression which contains operators and operands. An operation is an expression which contains operators and operands. So 1 plus 2 is an operation, okay, where 1 and 2 are called operands and plus is called operator here, okay. 1 plus 2 is an operation, 1 and 2 are called operands and plus is called operator here. So we will see few operators in Python. One kind of operators are arithmetic operators, okay. Assignment operators, that is another kind. Comparison operators, logical operators, identity operators, membership operators, bitwise operators, okay. So these are all the different kinds of operators that we have in Python. So first we will talk about arithmetic operators. So in this 5 plus 3 operation, 5 and 3 are called the operands and plus is called the operator, and it is used for addition operation, okay. In the same way, for the operation 5 minus 3, okay, 5 and 3 are called the operands and minus is called the operator, which is used for subtraction operation. Same thing for multiplication. Star is the operator used for multiplication. Next, this is used for division. Remember that division always gives a result of floating point type. Here 5 by 3 is there. Even if I say 2 by 2 equal to 1, right? But as per Python, 2 by 2 will give you 1.0, which is a floating point number. So that is with Python 3 version. In Python 2 version, you will be getting a floor value of a division. But in Python 3, you will be getting a floating point number for division. Next, modulus operator. Modulus operator will give you remainder in a division. So what is the remainder here? 5 modulus 3. It will be 2. 2 will be the remainder. Okay. 5 double star 3. Double star is used for exponentiation. I mean we call it as power, 5 power 3, it will be 125. So single star is used for multiplication and double star is used for power, exponentiation. Okay, so the next is 5 double slash 3. So it is used for floor division. So we don't have this operator in Python 2. It is introduced from Python 3 onwards. Okay, if you see this 5 single slash 3, it will give you a floating point number as the result. Here 5 double slash 3 will give you floor division value. That means first we need to understand what is a floor value. Consider a value called 1.6. Okay, for 1.6 the floor value will be 1 and ceiling value will be 2. Similarly for 2.5, the floor value will be 2 and ceiling value will be 3. Now when I perform this division, 5 divided by 3, it will be something like 1.66. So for 1.66 the floor value will be 1. So that is what you get when you use double slash 3. So 5 slash 3 will give you 1.66. Okay, whereas 5 double slash 3 will give you the floor value of 1.66, that is 1. So that is why it is called floor division. Next we will be talking about assignment operators. Earlier we talked about arithmetic operators. Now we will be talking about assignment operators. So consider this operation equal to 2. Here equal to is an assignment operator. Okay, there is this operation a plus equal to 2. Here plus equal to is an assignment operator. Okay, plus equal to 2 is an assignment operator, and this assignment is same as a equal to a plus 2. So you can say a equal to a plus 2 or a plus equal to 2, both are same, and plus equal to 2 is also a assignment operator. Same is the case with a minus equal to 2. Here minus equal to is an assignment operator. Similarly for product, star equal to 2, it is nothing but a equal to a star 2. Same for division, a slash equal to 2 is nothing but a equal to a by 2. Same for modulus. Okay, a modulus equal to 2 is a equal to a modulus 2. Same for a double slash as well. And for exponentiation also. Okay, now we will see the comparison operators. Okay, so before understanding the comparison operators, first we will see what is an if condition. Okay, if you understand if condition, then you can understand those comparison operators. So take an expression, okay, and there will be an if condition. Okay, if that if condition is satisfied for that particular expression, then this if condition is going to return true. That is what all about if condition. That means we have an expression that will be positive an if condition. If that expression is satisfied by the if condition, then that if condition will return true. Okay, if that if condition is not satisfied, okay, then that if condition will return false. So that is what all about if condition. So now we will see comparison operators. Okay, now this is the expression that I am talking about, and this is the if condition. Okay, here double equal to will be the comparison operator. Double equal to will be the comparison operator. So if this if condition is satisfied for this particular operation, okay, then it will return true. Okay, there is one more thing called not equal to operator. Earlier we have seen equal operator, equal comparison operator. Now we will see not equal operator. A if not equal to B. Okay, here not equal to is the comparison operator. Same here as well. If this condition is satisfied, then only it will return true. So let us consider A equal to 2, B equal to 2. A not equal to B, 2 not equal to 2. If condition is not satisfied, then it will return false. There is one more comparison operator called greater than. Okay, greater than is defined like this. So consider A equal to 2, B equal to 2. 2 greater than 2 is false. Okay, then this if condition will return false. Now we will see less than operator. So if A less than B. Okay, here this is the less than operator. Okay, the next thing is greater than or equal to. This is one more comparison operator, greater than or equal to. So let us say A equal to 2, B equal to 2. That means A greater than or equal to 2. That if condition will be satisfied. 2 greater than or equal to 2, and it will return true. We also have less than or equal to operator. Now let us talk about logical operators. So till now we have seen arithmetic operators, assignment operators, comparison operators. So this is the logical operators. So AND is one logical operator. So you can use AND in an if condition, and this condition gets satisfied when both the expressions get satisfied by the if condition. Then only this will return true. Okay, this needs to hold true and this needs to hold true. Then only this if condition is said to be satisfied. That is in the case of AND logical operator. That means consider, let's say A equal to 2, B equal to 2. Okay, 2 greater than 2. No, it is not correct. So this if condition is not satisfied. Let us consider another example. Okay, let us consider A equal to 2 and B equal to 1. So in that particular scenario, so this will be holding true because 2 greater than 1. Okay, this will be holding true. But what about this? It says 2 greater than 2. No, this is wrong. This will not be satisfied by the if condition. So since we have AND operator, both the expressions need to be satisfied. If one of them is not satisfied, then this if statement will return false. So that is all about AND. In case of AND logical operator, both the expressions need to be satisfied. Even if one of them fails, then if condition will return false. Okay. Next, OR operator. In OR operator, even if one of the if condition is true, then this if condition will return true. Okay. If consider the same example, a equal to 2, b equal to 1. That means this will 2 greater than 1. This will be true, but 2 is not greater than 2. This will be false. Okay. That means in such case this will still return true, because in OR, even if one of the expressions return true, that will be enough for the if condition in case of a OR logical operator. That means in case of AND, both the expressions need to be true, but in OR, at least one expression needs to be true. Now we will talk about NOT operator. So consider this example. If not a greater than b and a greater than 2. So this if not condition will return false only when a greater than b and a greater than 2. In all the other cases, this particular if not condition will return true. Only when this both the expressions are true, then only this if not condition will return false. In all the other cases, this if not condition will return true. So this is actually a reverse of this if condition. We can take another example. So in the earlier example we have used AND. Now we will use OR. Okay. If not a greater than b or a greater than 2, and this particular if not condition will return false when at least a greater than b or a greater than 2. In any such cases, this if not condition will return false. Okay. Here in only one condition, in this particular condition only, this if not condition will return false, but here in any condition, either if any one of them are true, then this if not condition will return false. Okay. Now we will talk about identity operators. So earlier we discussed about address of an object in the memory. So this is operator actually talks about the address only. Now consider this expression, if a is equal to b. Okay. This if condition will return true only when both the variables a and b are pointing to the same object in the memory. Okay. When both the variables a and b are pointing to the same object in the memory, then only this a is equal to b, a is b will hold true. The other identity operator is not. Is not is another identity operator. First we have seen for is operator, now we will be seeing for is not operator. So that can be specified like this. If a is not b, that means this condition will return true only when a and b are not pointing to the same object in the memory. Okay. This will return true only when a and b are not pointing to the same object in the memory. Membership operators we will be talking later. Okay. Same as the case with bitwise operators. We will talk about them later. Now we will see the number systems supported in Python. Decimal number systems. This is one system that is supported in Python. So in decimal number system, you can use digits from 0 to 9. Okay, and the radix will be 10. Since you are using the digits from 0 to 9, radix will be 10. Okay, and one example for a decimal number is equal to 20. So this is a decimal number. Next, binary number systems. In binary number system, your binary number can start with 0b. I mean, it is not mandatory, but it can actually start with 0b, and digits used are 0 and 1. Okay, these digits can be used in a binary number. Since we are using 2 digits, radix will be 2. So one example is this one, a equal to 0b 10100. This is actually equivalent to 20 in decimal number system. This particular value is equal to 20 in decimal number system. Next one is octal number system. Okay, an octal number starts with 0 and O. This is 0 and O in small case. Okay, and an octal number can contain digits from 0 to 7. So the radix will be 8. Okay, so this is an octal number, 0 followed by a O in small case and 24, and this is equivalent to 20 in decimal number system. So this is an octal number. Next, hexadecimal number system. So hexadecimal number starts with 0 and x in small case. It can contain digits from 0 to 9 and alphabets from A to F. Okay, in octal it can contain from 0 to 7 only, but here in hexa it can contain digits from 0 to 9, and it can even contain alphabets from A to F. So the radix will be 16. One example for hexadecimal number is 0x14, and this is equivalent to 20 and decimal number system. What is a bit? Bit is the smallest unit to represent information on a machine. It is the basic unit to represent information on a machine. What is a nibble then? A nibble contains 4 bits of information. A nibble contains 4 bits of information. What is a character? A character is nothing but what you type on the keyboard in a single stroke. That is a character. It is what you type on the keyboard in a single stroke. What is a byte? A byte contains 8 bits of information. Okay, and this byte is capable of holding a character. Okay, it contains 8 bits and it is capable of holding a character. Okay, this is all about today's class. Tomorrow we are going to discuss about data types in Python. Okay. Watching videos is not enough. You need to develop projects on your own, and I can help you with that. I have 10 years of experience developing web applications, and I can help you build too. You can join our training program where we help you develop projects on your own.